a lot of it's just coming down to like amateur has a certain style and the teams know each other in amateur. I don't think academy prep properly for amateur teams.
I think that academy is good in the way that they like play against more or less the same people over and over, right? And amateur is kind of like that, but in amateur it feels a lot more like it's important to take this specific series than it is to build towards an eventual thing. And that sort of all or nothing mentality is something that I think is leaving the academy teams to not thrive. What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Impact. I'm still Dia. This is still RMC. We're going to be doing our thing, talking about amateur. And, well, that's my intro. Let's take a look at the winner's bracket first, since we're following some sort of order over here. We're not just completely winging it.
Of course we're not. Yeah, I feel like that's a bit of a lackluster intro, considering that UGP has been absolutely insane. Like, this is a tournament where we've had surprises aplenty. And just looking at the upper bracket, I think it's already surprising that we're not seeing 4 academy teams at the end of it. Not to say that there aren't good amateur teams. I think it was just surprising that the academy teams have struggled as much as they have. And the fact that it's Zeus and Resolve here who were struggling more recently, I love the fact that they've shown up big and they've beaten out the academy teams to make it all the way to what is effectively the upper semifinals here.
I would always have told you that Zeus could take an academy team. On any day of the week, I would have told you that. What I would not have told you is that Resolve could take an academy team. That wouldn't have crossed my mind. And so to see them actually make it through to the upper round 3 is absolutely crazy to me. Not that they're a bad team. They're not a bad team. But are they Zeus? Absolutely not.
I think Resolve is performing incredibly well right now. I mean, APA really seems comfortable. And more importantly, I feel like PCL and Fnatic are showing up absolutely massive. PCL took over the game here against Golden Guardians Academy. I think if you show up like that against Dignitas, well, Dignitas was third. The third of the 4 academy teams here, second from the bottom. Technically, it was Golden Guardians who was the better team. So if you can beat Golden Guardians, you can beat Dignitas Academy. On the other hand, Zeus versus TSM Academy, I think that one's going to be a little bit harder for Zeus. I think they're a great team. I think they fully deserve their win over CLG Academy. But TSM Academy is a little bit of a different beast.
Yeah, TSM Academy, they're really scary. And I'm sending all of the best to Zeus because they have been still swinging. I think even when they're performing at their highest highs, Zeus have always been a team that can drop a game or two. But even if they come in on Monday at a 9, I still feel like that 9 could lose a best of 3, even if they feel like they're playing really well. But I wanted to ask you, before we talk about more of the matches that are coming up, what's your match from this past week that you would recommend to go back and watch?
Okay, my match to watch from this past week is actually in the lower bracket here. But my second place match to watch is in the winner's bracket, and it's CLG Academy versus Zeus Gaming, because it was so meaning-laden here. Zeus Gaming having previous CLG Academy players on their team facing off against their former team, and the fact that Zeus was the first team to take out an Academy team and knock them to the lower bracket there. And now, CLG Academy has actually been, spoilers, knocked completely out of the Unified Grand Prix.
Oh, the spoilers! Oh, do we have to transition to talking about the lower bracket? I think, you know what? I think we may as well. I think now is a good time. We've covered a lot of the upper bracket. We can come back to it later because, as you mentioned, the kicking just continues. CLG Academy no longer part of it after having fallen to Supernova.
Yeah.
Did I say that with too much surprise in my voice? I didn't mean to.
No, I think it's fair. And hey, I'm a Supernova fan. I've loved the org. I've worked with the org quite a bit here throughout spring and summer split. Love the boys. But just listening to the interviews that they had, like Maddie and Strompas weren't expecting to be able to necessarily wipe the best teams. They acknowledge that they are a middle of the pack team and they haven't played to their full potential. But my goodness, against CLG Academy, they brought it, and it was a team-wide thing. All 6 players, Rovex starting game 1 as well. I mean, they did ultimately lose it, but it wasn't one-sided. But the match to watch for me wasn't that one, as surprising as it might be. It was Dignitas Mirage versus Evil Genius Prodigies, which had, I think,
which was also crazy.
Yeah, it had the craziest finishing. It had the most action here. I magically even dropped the F-bomb on stream, and it was well-deserved. That is my clip for the week here. It's just straight up crazy, and it was just the end of game 1.
Can you stop the onslaught? They're trying to crack.
They're going.
TP. Zymer's going in. Light Pulse is right behind him. It's going to be a base race. They've got the turret in the top lane. Here's Surdy.
They're not fast enough.
Lose out on the Nexus turret. Only one more hit. It's
Here's
now
the resets.
They've got
Recalls.
it. The resets. Dragoon
Hit the Nexus.
Away on the Nexus. No fucking way.
Light
They're
Pulse.
gonna do it. Take a touch, Mirage. One more.
No. The game's still going.
Away! And they lose out the ace for EGP. They'll clinch this game and get a 1-0 lead over Dignitas Mirage.
Someone get me a replay on that Nexus HP. Get it right now. Because that was only game 1. And we're in for one guaranteed more game.
Okay, so Dia, just for the record, they went back to check how much health that Nexus had. 66 health, and one auto from, I think, even the Leona support would have been able to potentially end that game.
A hair's worth. It's like the difference of seconds in these games. That was a trademark RMC clip, but it is my job, RMC, to bring you your MVP. And though you may disagree with it, I'm the one who gets to pick, so. My MVP came from AOE Esports Prime versus Supernova, interestingly enough. I picked this matchup because, in a way, they represent a grassroots form of amateur that unfortunately hasn't continued to make it into the rest of UGP, but I thought that they put up a really good fight in the first 2 games against Supernova, and if you have the chance, I would definitely go back and watch it. As of right now, though, let's take a look at Zadox going absolutely wild.
Oh, it's the mid lane we're watching here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Look at the Q.
Wait, he had... Oh, they didn't have vision. Oh, that insect. I have not seen an insect that clean in a while here, Dia.
I know.
Just no, like you said, zero hesitation. They just pull the trigger. I was surprised when you called Zadox, and I was thinking, okay, I won't criticize your pick if you don't criticize my power rankings, but this is fair. This is fair.
Now, we've zoomed in pretty heavily on a lot of the things about the lower bracket. I know I pulled us right back into that Supernova sort of style. So let's take a minute, step back, and just look at the state of the lower bracket right now, because matches coming up, Maryville versus Supernova. We had a chance to talk about that. Golden Guardians Academy versus Dignitas Mirage, we haven't dissected nearly as much, especially how these teams got there.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair here. I mean, for Digmig, they had to beat Wildcard Gaming Black, who I was pretty hyped on last week here. And I stand by what I said. It was a hot take, and it did kind of flame out a little bit. But at the same time, losing to Digmig, who beat EGP, I think is that's a fair loss, to say the least here. I think more surprisingly to me was OQ beating AOE Randoms. That was the other hot take. Or the other, it became a hot take. We were thinking, a little bit more in terms of AOE versus Maryville, but OQ happened and OQ won. I was very, very surprised by that. Yeah, they lost to Golden Guardians Academy after that, but the fact that they won, I think, was very impressive. And like you said, Glaive Supernova. Glaive took a game off Supernova, who then went on to beat CLG Academy. So by transitive property, that means Glaive equals CLG Academy? Is that
yes?
Is that how things work here?
I can see the analytics forming in my mind. All amateur rosters just start to blend together with Academy. We just get a giant cesspool of talent.
Whoa, cesspool's a little harsh there, but hey, you know what? Cesspools make for great fertilizer, and I guess the amateur's there to, give us new talent in the pipeline.
It's a revolution!
Maryville versus TSM Amateur, I think, was another game which is very interesting and a little bit worth watching. I think Maryville is on a roll right now, and I'm a little bit worried for Supernova coming into next week. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but Maryville looking really, really strong right now as well.
Dignitas Mirage has been this super crazy roster where I both adequately estimate what their capabilities are, and then they defy those capabilities within 1 week. I have been amazed seeing this roster be able to take games and series that, honestly, coming into today, I don't think anybody would have predicted that they would. Evil Genius's Prodigies should have been the end of a journey, and it wasn't. After this, all bets are off for Dignitas Mirage.
I think all bets are off for a lot of these teams. We don't know what's going on anymore. And the name of the game right now, Dia, is momentum. And I think that is a good segue into the power rankings here, because I've got some big changes to the power rankings. And normally I try and assess the teams by how I think they are in general, on average. This week, no. We're just going with how UGP is going because there's a lot of swing here. There's a lot of momentum, and that's why we're getting some big numbers.
I
That's
see
right.
Resolve has just rocketed up your standings.
I was on the Resolve train at the start. Like I said, the 1 week I don't predict them to do well, they spike. And you know what? Right now, their momentum is strong. They beat Golden Guardians Academy. And like I said, I think Golden Guardians was stronger than Dignitas Academy. So you know what? That puts them at second as far as I'm concerned.
I want to give you the nickname Recency Biased Ryan after this. This is actually so beautiful. I am. Okay, let me take a look at this like 100%. I see Zeus moving up, which I think is justified. I think Maryville moving up, also justified. Dignitas Mirage, I told you RMC, don't get on that hype train. It will betray you.
Let's be fair. The top 8 teams are there because they are still in the tournament.
That's
right?
true. That's true.
So I'm not really on a Dig hype train if they're 8th out of 8.
That's true. That's true. And that's where a lot of this starts to make sense, right? I look at OQ and I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? Fine. I see it. I do want to talk a little bit because it's really my only point of contention about the OQ versus AOE randoms ranking. Because I feel like there's some exploration to be done there. I wouldn't have picked that 100% of the time is what I'll say.
Yeah. I think AOE randoms, my concern last week with the new roster was how it would fit. And I gave them a lot of leeway because normally I don't like roster changes, especially 2 out of 5 members. That's going to change a lot in 2 different roles as well. If you're just swapping out a bot lane, it's still going to be big, but at the same time, they're a unit. But they swapped out their top lane, Chim for a third is for Chim, pardon me, and their bot lane as well, which was Fizzy coming in for Paucus. And I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. When I watched their game against OQ, it really felt like there were coordination issues there. Mistakes, stepping out when they shouldn't have, the team not being there to back them up. And with these sort of coordination issues, I can't help but drop them a little bit until they fix it. And unfortunately, their PG season's done. So on one hand, they've got a lot of time to fix those coordination issues. But on the other hand, it won't be this split.
You talked about me not criticizing your power rankings, and I really want to, just to like upset you, but I do think you've kind of hit the nail on the head here, especially when we talk about top 8 teams still in the tournament. Makes total sense, and I don't really see the rest of them having problems. The only thing that I might change is that 13, 14, 15 slot. I think Glaive could be higher, but I also think that I'm super biased. And I think randoms could be higher, but also I'm still super biased because OQ, I've already been betrayed by that hype train, and I see how all this could come together in multiple different orders. But realistically, I think these power rankings are spot on, RMC, and as we move further, and more specifically, as we move into the rest of Proving Grounds, I want to see how these get brought up one more time, because we're not even done after UGP, and that's where these are going to get even more tense.
Right? Like if you can't beat TSM Amateur, and they were 7th out of 10th, faster math. Every team above them is naturally going to be ranked higher than them. So to a certain extent, it's going to be a lot to me about their momentum. Can these teams ride momentum? And I think next week's going to be the biggest test of that, right? Can Resolve continue dominating, especially against yet another Academy team? Same with Zeus Gaming as well. And if they do happen for Zeus Gaming to lose to TSM Academy here, can they continue through the losers bracket, continue winning there? And for Supernova and Digmig, as Cubby said, the heart of Amateur here, I want to see if they can ride this Amateur wave and whether they can win. Like I said, maybe Digmig sneak some wins off of Golden Guardian Academy. Maybe they sneak their way into that final 6. And for Supernova playing Maryville, that I think is actually going to be a tougher matchup because Maryville is wise to the ways of Amateur. There's no surprises here, and it's just going to be straight skill to bring you over the finish line.
That one's going to be spooky. So you talked about what hangs on all these series, but I'm only going to give you one RMC. What is your match to watch going into this week?
My match to watch: Resolve versus Dignitas Academy. I bumped them up 8 spots, man. I'm on the Resolve train right now. Like I bumped them all the way up. So I got to be the boys. Like I want to see them win. I want to see them make it all the way to the upper finals. I want to see them play all the Academy teams if possible.
Well, I wouldn't have expected it, but I'm not going to fault you for it because It is a game, of course, with a lot hanging on it. I, interestingly enough, also want to watch the Dignitas game, but not that one. I want to be watching Golden Guardians Academy versus Dignitas Mirage. I am super on the Dig hype train in the other direction, and it is as ill-advised as it is. I invite you all to join me. It'll be a blast. It'll be fun. Come pop into the stream because Golden Guardians Academy versus Dignitas Mirage is going to be wild, as is Resolve versus Dignitas Academy, where you can go hang out with RMC this coming week. I guess we'll see you guys in Twitch chat, because until next time, that's going to be it for the Impact. I have been Dia.
And I've been Random Minion Caster.
And if you enjoyed this, go ahead and throw us a like, a comment, a subscription, whatever you like. Maybe even a little bit of friendly banter in the comments. And we will see you next week for another episode of The Impact.